up, you guys? It's Simon. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, if you can't already tell by the title, I'm going to be teaching y'all how to make some of your own wands if you want to be a little witch or a wizard. But before we get into that, I want to say sorry if I'm out of frame. I have not only a new tripod but also a new phone and therefore just an entirely new setup. So filming things will be a little bit different, a little bit wonky, and I'm also sorry if the camera quality switches back and forth between some clips, because some clips are in 4K and some clips are in 1080p. So yeah, I was really struggling using the front and back camera trying to figure out this new angle, so hopefully it's not anything too noticeable or anything too distracting. But yeah, let's get into the video. So, I've been really into Harry Potter recently, and my husband's always pretty crafty and wanting to do, like, all sorts of activities, so I thought we'd do something a little bit fun and make our wands from Harry Potter. So, in the past, I've done this before. I made a wand out of chopsticks, a chopstick, and hot glue, which you'll see at the end of the video to compare to my new wand, obviously, so hopefully look forward to that. So, basically, let's get into the process of making these wands. So it's really simple, and you really only need a few things, and they can be, you know, relatively cheaply made. So the list of things you need are bamboo skewers or chopsticks, Model Magic, acrylic paint, paper towels, wow, and Mod Podge, and obviously your imagination. So I already had everything I needed for this video. But if you are going to go out and purchase the supplies we used in this video, it would cost about around $10 to $15 to buy everything, but chances are you already have most of these things lying around the house except for the clay, which will run you about $5 at your local Walmart or grocery store. So, instructions. First, you're going to take a bamboo skewer and wrap it with a very thin and very tight layer of clay. And I would strongly encourage you to let it dry completely because we kept ours very thick from the get-go and they didn't really like to hold on to the skewer. I would notice that every time I tried to roll it out to, you know, even out the surface, it would just spread apart and stretch, and you'll see some of that in the video. It was very awkward to work with when you do it that way, so I would strongly recommend just very thin coats from the start. Wrap it very tightly. Towards the end, I started using this technique where I would roll out thin sheets of clay, wrap it around, and then squeeze it tight against the skewer, and then let it dry before going on to the next step, because it was just so much easier. I would also recommend probably using a few skewers for the base rather than just one. For some reason I was not thinking, and I just ended up using one skewer on its own. So once you've started that, continue building your wand in whatever shape you'd like. I personally took my Pottermore wand and recreated it with a few changes to the coloring and the carving, but I kept the shape generally the same, which is exactly what I did with my first wand. My husband, on the other hand, decided to just go wild and make his wand in whatever way he pleased, and it ended up being really cool and really interesting. So the shape of your wand can really be whatever you want to do. And again, like I said before, you want to make sure you leave ample time between drying each coat of clay to prevent any major cracks or malfunctions. Y'all can hopefully see in the video that when making the sort of like bended, angled area of my wand, I had to remake the same area over and over and over because the clay was not sticking to itself, and I was picking it up too early and not really giving it time to solidify, so the wet heavy clay was way too much to hold its own weight and would break apart and collapse so many times that I had to fix it up a lot off camera. So something to note, obviously, Model Magic is very prone to cracking. If you were in the cosplay scene in 2012, I'm sure you've heard of a Homestuck cosplayer's nightmare experience with making their horns out of Model Magic, sculpting them, making the most beautiful thing ever, and then waking up in the morning to their horns being cracked in half. So it's definitely not fun, but one thing that really helped reinforce our wands and sort of protect it from this cracking were paper towels. So what you do is you wet a paper towel and try and pry apart the sheets. If you can't, just using a normal 2-ply sheet will still work. I know my husband was very good at peeling them apart, but I was not, and so I just worked with the 2-ply. The important thing is that the paper towels are wet because this helps thin them out. So after you've wetted your paper towels and peeled them apart, you carefully wrap thin pieces of paper towel around the base of your wand, but especially in places that are particularly fragile or that you've noticed are prone to cracking and falling off. When left to dry properly, the paper towels act as a really strong bonding agent and also help give the effect of like a bark or like knotted wood sort of texture. Another particularly helpful bonding agent is something that my husband likes to call sludge, but I think it's essentially like slip in like pottery and stuff like that. I might be wrong about the terminology, but it's basically you take a chunk of clay and mix it in with water until it's very thin but still has some sort of viscosity. You want to be able to still pick it up to some effect and not just have it be totally watery. And you can use this as a glue between cracks as well as to coat your paper towels if you feel like like they stand out too much, or just really want a good strong bond between all of your pieces. I know right at the very place where all of the angles met on my wand, I wrapped a very thick layer of paper towels around them, and my husband did have to help me a bit, and then he put like the slip on top of it, and that really helped tie them together. So finally, once the structure of your wand has been completed, leave it alone to dry. We left ours overnight, but Mod Podge and acrylic, oh my gosh, Mod Podge and Model Magic are both generally quick drying materials, and it may be ready from anywhere between 30 minutes to a few hours depending on your wand. Mine was particularly fragile due to the angular bits, so I wanted to give mine ample time to dry all the way through. Once they've dried completely, this next step is optional, but if you notice any cracking, so long as the cracks are not major, for example, like missing huge chunks, which can happen, for example, the bottom of my husband's wand actually fell off overnight somehow, and mine also was missing the very bottom bit of that, so we did have to fix those, obviously. But if you don't have anything like that, for example, another crack that I had in my wand it was just like a thin fracture all the way around the edge, and I could actually separate my handle from my wand. But because that wasn't super huge and noticeable, I was able to just Mod Podge that together, and once that was dried, it was enough to keep it together. So after your glue or Mod Podge or additional clay, if you had any major issues, has dried, we move on to the finalization of your wand. So we used acrylic paint for ours and mixed whatever color we liked for the wood base and added a few accents. You can paint yours any way you like to make it personal to you. Using a mix of brown, black, blue, and a little bit of red, I created a sort of grayish wood that resembled the one I had on Pottermore for the base, and then dry brushed it in random places with light grayish brown, and in some cases just straight up black to give it a more realistic look. I also took the liberty of changing the color of the base as well, and the two rounded bits to black and gold to make it a little bit more ornate, but also to have it just stand out a little more. My husband, on the other hand, created the coolest wand. I swear it has like gradients, all of these little gold bits, a handle like for his fingers when he holds it. His is super cool, and I'm obsessed, and you'll see that when I do the overview shots of all of our wands as well as the comparison to my old one in the outro. But I really hope you guys enjoy it. I really had a lot of fun making these, and if you make one, maybe show me on Instagram or Pinterest or something like that. I have both of those at Simon AES Arts, so if you guys end up making them, please show them to me because I think that would be super, super cool. So now let us get into the comparison. Okay, so before I show you guys how the wands actually turned out, I wanted to show you guys what my old wand looks like. So here is my old wand. As y'all can see, it's a little crooked, it's very tiny. It is also kind of busted looking. You can see the chopstick peeking out. The hot glue is exposed in a lot of places, so it is looking like a hot mess. So don't be ashamed if your first wand does not come out looking effortless and beautiful, because I still was really proud of this up until I made the new ones. So yeah, this is my first wand, and then to compare it, here is the new one. So I'm going to show you guys all the little details of how the paper towel turned out once it's dried and been painted. All the carving that I did on the handle, And I just wanted to show you guys, just so I can assure you, since I mentioned that mine broke a lot, it's pretty sturdy now. I wouldn't go smacking it on anything, but I think it's decent enough to pretend to be a little witch or a wizard. I don't know. As long as you don't go smacking it on any surfaces, it's pretty sturdy now. So yeah, you can see this one's a lot bigger. It's a lot more detailed. Just a lot, I don't know, sturdier in general. So yeah, there's my wand. And now for my husband's. It is a huge boy, so I'm going to try to figure out how to get it all on camera for you. So yeah, it's hard to see on camera, but there is a gradient up against this part right here. It's light brown, and then it slowly goes into dark, and it's really cool. There's all of these sculpted details we have right here. Lots of little tiny bits. His handle, I think, is a really cool shape. It's just really cool in general. And then here is the bit that I was talking about the, I guess it's still a handle, but it's like, a finger rest. I don't know how to describe it, but it's basically, to put your fingers in and hold. And I think his wand turned out really cool as well. So if you liked these, if you thought the whole experience was really fun, be sure to subscribe. I may have mentioned somewhere in the voiceover that we are almost at 1K, and we are now at 900 as I'm filming this outro. So that's insane. Thank you guys so much. We might very well beat a 1K by the time this video goes up, so if we do, thank you. That's crazy. Speaking of thank yous, I want to give a big thank you to my patron, Elise Thompson. You are the best. Thank you so much for continuing to support me every single month. It means the world to me. If you want to get your name read alongside cool people like Elise, as well as get some really cool perks like free wallpapers, coloring books, and so many more things in the future, be sure to check out the Patreon. It will be linked in the description down below. I love you guys so much, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.